Everyone refreshed and ready to go for the second half? Sarah, are you ready to take us into it?
Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. Thank you.
Okay, let me just do a quick share screen here and we will get started. Excellent. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So first off, I do have the pleasure of knowing most of you and loving most of you. I am also excited that we have people that I'm just now meeting with us. And so for those of you that I'm just now meeting, I'm Sarah E. Morin, and I have the honor of being the premier poet right now. And one of the perks that I get is at each of our conferences, I get to pick a topic and geek out about it with you. And so I know as a poet, I am always looking for a new form, a new market, a creative challenge. I suspect that's the way for a lot of you. So today we're going to take a look at a form and a market that you may have overlooked, greeting card poetry. And so we're a small enough group that when we do kind of group questions, you can either choose to put your answer in the chat or just to speak out loud. So I would like to kick us off with the following question. Take a moment and in the chat or out loud, tell us the last card that you sent or received. What was the occasion and how did it make you feel? I hear the tippy tap of little keys, so I know people are writing answers. All right, sent handwritten cards to my daughters just to tell them I love them. Feels so good, says Deborah. George says my sister's birthday, which is today. Oh, happy birthday, George's sister. An elaborate card made in PowerPoint. Ooh, excellent resource, yes. And a marriage greeting card, absolutely, that's great. Okay, you can keep those answers rolling in. Yes, Alice says, a handmade card to my little pally grandson, silly photo of me with hiya, hiya, hiya message. Made me feel both sad and happy both. Yep. Chuck says, not sure, my sister sent one not too long ago. Always makes me happy. Great answers. So I picked this topic not because I am an expert on writing greeting cards, but because of a story that I came across in Humanities, the magazine for the National Endowment for the Humanities. And so in just a moment, we're going to take a look at it. I do want to continue to read just a couple of answers that rolled in. A 13th birthday for a granddaughter, a sketch of her, and a thank you card for postage tickets to my boss. Felt great to get random rewards, even though I don't care much for basketball. And well wishes from a neighbor. She didn't put her name on it, only a neighbor. Oh, well, that's sweet. Anonymous neighbors. Great. So here is the story that really caught my attention. So here is, anyone know?
Is that Maya Angelou?
Maya Angelou.
Yes, yes, you win. This is Maya Angelou, famous poet, author of multiple books, including all of these: civil rights activist, a Pulitzer Prize nominee, the first Black woman to make the nonfiction bestseller list, the first to recite a poem at a presidential inauguration. So in the early 2000s, she is really at the top of her game. And she decides her newest poetic project will be something really surprising: greeting cards. And she partners with Hallmark to launch a line of cards called Life Mosaic. And so this is just from a back of a set of those cards. And so you can kind of see the style. You can see that they have small poetic excerpts that she has written just for these occasions. And so the reaction to this was fascinating. all over the place. A lot of the literati, I love that word, or the literary elite, thought that she had no business catering to the masses. So here's a quote I'm going to pull up right here. It lowers the understanding of what poetry actually can do. Hallmark cards has always been a common phrase to describe verse that is really less than poetry because it is sentimental and unoriginal. And that comes from
Billy Collins.
yes.
Oh man, I love Billy
What?
Collins. I love Billy Collins, but how rude.
Yeah, man, how would you feel if the then reigning poet laureate had that to say about your new form? So I'm not trying to bash on Billy Collins here, but just to bring up that he is reflecting the prejudice that greeting card poetry is somehow a lesser form for the masses, sappy and sentimental. Now, in fact, Angelou's poetry reached a wider audience than ever. More people would pick up one of her cards in a store than would ever pick up one of her books. And Life Mosaic generated $45 million in its first 5 years for Hallmark. It made more than $4 million for Angelou. And I don't know about you as a poet, I'm not expecting to make $4 million anytime soon. The insight in her poetry spoke to the broader human experience. Many card senders and receivers felt that her words spoke to and for them. She said, my partner with Hallmark creates a new way for my message to reach millions of women and families, many of whom may not be familiar with my work, but most of whom seek an expanded viewpoint on courage, spirituality, and personal expression. So in today's workshop, first, we're going to appreciate greeting card writing as a unique type of writing. It's as worthy and distinct as any other form of poetry with its own conventions and style. Second, we're going to learn more about the greeting card market. You'll walk away with 7 places to submit your work, should you choose. And 3, we're going to consider writing tips for both published and private greeting cards, because some of you may not want to publish. You just might want to send a lovely card to a loved one or friend. And number 4, we are going to write a card, at least a draft, and we will share as many as we have time for. First, let's talk about the market. So I want to start with this, but wait, didn't technology and the pandemic kill the greeting card industry? And I wondered about this because the market had been growing and I thought, did 2020 kill it dead? According to an article in the Chicago Tribune in just last October 2020, the pandemic was mixed news. For greeting card companies in the early stages when we were all on lockdown, yes, sales did go down, particularly at those brick and mortar stores. However, by September, the sales had rallied in some companies. The sales exceeded what was the sale in 2019. Some companies saw sales increase by as much as 1,200%. Lindsay Roy, who is Hallmark's chief marketing officer, said that Hallmark.com increased business threefold in 2020, largely due to the sale of cards. Roy also indicated that people were gravitating towards buying cards that reference connection, encouragement, gratitude, themes that are connected to the pandemic. And it's really interesting to me that 2020 spawned its own new genre, pandemic greeting cards. So for example, maybe you have a card with messages such as, you're essential every day, but especially this holiday season. Or here's one of my favorites that I found. The only thing saving this year 2020 is you. Etsy noticed a 74% increase in searches for greeting cards. And it's kind of a mixed bag. Definitely we saw sales increase in 2020. We're not exactly sure what will happen in 2021. There's predictions both ways. The case for cards. Oh, there seems to be a technical glitch. A previously recorded PSI Zoom meeting is playing over Sarah's workshop.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get an email quickly.
Any suggestions on how to fix that? If you can hear me, say something or type something.
I have checked my desktop and nothing's open, nothing's playing.
Good. I'm here.
So I think since you're the one screen sharing, that's
Okay,
weird.
I will do a quick look to see if I have anything open. That's a good idea. Make sure everyone's muted.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's somebody's got the meeting. Oh, you know what, Deborah? Check yours because that may be that meeting we transferred to you.
You can tell if I sent him an email with the polling information.
It may have, it may have downloaded and started playing somehow.
I'm going to see if I can just put everybody on mute.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea. I'm muting myself. Bye.
Okay, is the sound gone now? Type if you can hear okay without extra sounds. Okay, great. Fabulous. Proceeding on. Okay, now here's the case for cards in the face of technology. Because yeah, why send these old-fashioned paper things anymore when we can just text somebody? 8 out of 10 people agree that greeting cards cannot be replaced by social media. Most people now acknowledge more birthdays than ever before. And I know that I have the privilege of getting on Facebook in the morning and it tells me whose birthday it is. And that really helps jog the memory. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're sending fewer cards as a result. Those relationships that are considered card worthy continue to generate card sending. The case for cards also with e-cards and M-cards. An M-card is a mobile card. Those count for only a small percentage of overall greeting card sales. Most consumers prefer a paper card over a text that has the exact same message. And also, nearly all established card companies sell their product online. So Alice, I think, raised the point that, hey, I wonder if some of these brick and mortar companies are going online. The answer is yes. Younger card buyers and those who are technologically savvy are currently the ones most engaged in buying paper greeting cards online. And part of it's because we are just so inundated with digital messages that a paper card feels more real. You can put your hands on it. Millennials also keep their cards longer. So again, the predictions for the future of the industry all over the place. As the pandemic goes away, some predict fewer sales, some more, and we'll get to a little bit more as we talk about who's buying. So this is from a September 2020 release from the Greeting Card Association. Americans purchase approximately 6.5 billion greeting cards each year. Annual retail sales of greeting cards are estimated to be between $7 and $8 billion each year. 9 out of every 10 households buy greeting cards. Baby boomers buy the largest quantity of cards. Yay, boomers. However, millennials are the top buyers in terms of the dollars spent on the cards. Millennials also form the most new card companies, a lot through the maker movement, and they sell them online in places like Etsy. And millennials purchase more from makers. I don't know what Gen X is doing. It didn't mention them at all. Most card buyers are between the ages of 35 and 60, which is, when you think about it, that's the age range when consumers know the most people, and they're in the life stages that include buying homes, getting married, and having kids. And women purchase 80% of all greeting cards. Women also spend more time choosing a card than men, and are more likely to buy several cards at once. And I'm seeing some good comments here. about holding on to cards from people since I was a kid. Yes, I absolutely do the same thing. I have currently in a filing cabinet, maybe 2 solid feet of cards that I've gotten since I was maybe first grade. So take a moment in the chat and write down what you think the most popular card sending occasions are. Yes, George, some people actually read the cards before buying. Great. Buying blank cards and writing your own notes. Yes, blank cards are becoming more popular. We're going to talk a little bit more about more text-heavy cards, but blank cards are on the rise. All right, Chuck says birthdays, weddings, graduation, deaths. Marlene agrees. Oh, George's wife makes beautiful handmade cards and you add the words. Oh, I love that. Marriage and deaths. Congratulations, milestones. Excellent guesses. Thank yous. Yes, you are all right on target. Number 1, far and away, the most sales. Birthday. Far and away, more than the majority. Followed by, in order, sympathy. You all got that one. Thank you. Wedding. Thinking of you. Get well. New baby. And congratulations. So you all were spot on. Now, if you're wondering, hey, what happened to the holidays? We're talking about that next. Christmas, at least in this country, far and away, the most holiday cards are sent for Christmas. But you also there see a sizable chunk for Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation, Easter, Halloween, and then there's just some other. But if you are wanting to write cards that might be, then sold so other people can use them, do consider niche events and occasions. Galentine's Day with a G, it's on February 13th. It's a day when women celebrate female friends. I never heard of it till I started researching, but apparently that has been on the rise in the past several years, and there is a niche market for it. And 85% of adult men and women celebrate Mother's Day. And Mother's Day is the largest card sending holiday for the Hispanic community. So if you can write poetry in Spanish, this may be your call to action here. And there is another group of people who use greeting cards, and that's people who use them for business. So I want to give a shout out to Marlene Million, and she caught on to greeting cards as a market way before I thought of it. She's brought some of her cards to show at Noble Poets, and so I wanted her to share some of them with you this morning. I want to, so you can see her just a little bit better. I am going to stop my share long enough so that you can really see what she's showing us. So over to you, Marlene.
Okay, hello everyone. Tom and I had an office meeting with a business associate, and I noticed his colorful paintings in large frames in his office. He's an amateur photographer, and I enjoyed all of his colorful photos. At this point, I said, I guess out loud, geez, I would like to write a poem for some of your photos. And I told him it was a phrastic poem, and it would be poetry about art. And he said that he would like to try a client birthday card list. He has one. His photograph along with a short poem of mine to go with the photo. I've done a total of 4 birthday cards for him several years ago, and I did bring some to Noblesville, Noble Poets. And he wanted something short at the top so he could write best wishes on the bottom. So I did a quatrain, and he said that that fit. So he paid me last year, and he doubled the price this year, and I was really happy. I was willing to just do it for him. He's such a nice person, and I love his photos. But I do have several cards. I think I sent this one to you, Sarah, about daisies.
That's beautiful.
And actually, he has these printed by Shutterfly. Okay, he does the photos. And this daisy picture, he writes on all the cards. This one is Early Morning Daisies at Holcomb Gardens in Indianapolis, Indiana. And he said the photos by William Howell. And then I have another photo card, Shutterfly. This is, and this one was Blooming Water Lilies at Longwood Gardens, Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. And another one I think was at Las Vegas. And that's mosaic tile art at Encore Shops in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I did a poem on that one. I could read them maybe a little later. My first one was, I think this, oh, these are rose blooms from the International Rose Test Garden in Portland, Oregon. So he takes, and he also has other pictures of, you know, Sedona mountains in Denver, Colorado. And he has those blown up and he has them in frames in his office. And they're really phenomenal to see that. So that's, and I will say that he has been receiving good feedback from all his clients.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing those. Would you mind reading one of those aloud?
Yes, I would. Which one do you want? The daisies?
Sure.
I'll
Yeah,
read-
that'd be great.
I'll read the daisy one. It's a quatrain. Field of daisies, all gather as nature's favored. Your yellow bright eyes of small suns radiate amid white bees' praise, and merriment of freshness stuns.
Thank you, Marlene. All right, I'll start my share screen back up and we will proceed. Okay, can you see the screen again? Thumbs up? Excellent. One reason why business greeting cards may not show up on any of those statistics that we saw earlier is often businesses produce or design their cards in-house, or they contract with a specific designer. And that makes their cards unique. It gives them better control of brand. It allows them to conclude a little bit about their business on the card, like a logo. And so that's why we didn't see those earlier, but that is a market. Okay, and now I know the answer to the question I'm about to throw out as we talk about the why. Do any of you hold on to any greeting cards that you receive? And if you do, please do tell us in the chat box why you held on to the card. Marlene, you're getting praise from the chat box, by the way.
What? Oh, check.
Yep.
Oh.
You got praise. Beautiful photographs, poems too. Great job, Marlene. All right. Holds on to every one of them. Handwritten cards mean so much. I can reread them too. Yes, because life is short and you never know when a card will be all that is left from a friend or loved one. That's true. I keep very few, but special, sincere thank yous are often kept. Excellent answers. Because they captured a moment of time and space. That's very poetic. That's very appropriate that you respond poetically. Sympathy cards from my mother's passing, beautiful tributes. Yes, yes, preserving that wonderful memory. Chuck does not keep very many, and that's okay too. I know that I have the tendency to be a pack rat, and so that's okay to keep very few. Okay, those are great answers. You can keep those rolling in. I found a quote that I thought described it well. And this is again from Lindsay Roy, who's the CMO of Hallmark. And by the way, if you want something to look up sometime, look up Lindsay's personal story. She's the youngest CMO Hallmark has ever had, and she has a really interesting personal story. But her quote about it, it's an artifact of your relationship that really captures what's in your heart in a meaningful way. It's a physical manifestation that someone loves you. It shows thought and effort and is something I can keep. Rolling in, we also had the answer. I saved cards from a neighbor of ours in Chesterton, and she had beautiful handwriting. Lost art. She has since passed. Good responses. So really, when you think about it, it is an honor to write a card that someone can relate to as a, say, card writer that someone might purchase. It's a unique form of intimacy between poet and reader, where the reader not only relates to our words, they are using our words as their own. We are, for just a moment, their voice. And so we can help people who find it really hard to articulate how they are feeling. And that's just a really special, unique reader-writer connection. So let's talk a little bit about the process. So some writing tips. And as I researched this, a lot of it came from different businesses or creators who do greeting cards. And their writing tips include: acknowledge that this is a unique genre. Like any type of writing, like you have to learn the rules of haiku or limericks. Greeting card writing has its own style and form. Make it simple and striking. So combine a clear message with clear visuals. And words make the sale. So when we go to a greeting card aisle, on average, our eyes are going to be drawn to that image first. That is what attracts our attention. But 75% of buyers select cards based on the message. And by the way, the word verse, I have come to learn that when it comes to greeting cards, they say verse meaning any kind of writing on the card. It may or may not be what we would recognize as poetry, but that's what they mean as verse. Keep it brief. Most cards that you find for sale are 30 words or less, which is no problem if you're a Mary Couch. She has the brevity nailed. For somebody like me who likes to ramble, that can be a real challenge. The average card interior has 2 lines. Now, there are plenty of cards out there that break these rules. And if you're just writing personally, one-to-one, break all the rules you want. But if you're looking to sell a bunch, keep it brief. Consider the relationship. So your tone will be different if you're writing a card to somebody close versus, say, a coworker that you've only known for half a year. And humor sells. Cards with a punchline sell better, and they often will earn you more from the publisher. And this was in site after site. So if you have a funny bone that translates, this is your opportunity to bring in the dough. Another writing tip is to use a me to you voice. People use cards to speak for them, so make the message sound personal. Often, but not always, free verse is preferred versus rhyming because it sounds natural instead of formal. There are definitely exceptions. A suggestion from one site was to write for someone specific without naming them. So if you're writing a Mother's Day card, you're picturing and drawing experience from your relationship with your mother or your friend, or whatever the case may be. And that helps it sound more personal. However, you would move any details that are too specific because you still want a broad enough audience to relate to it. And that brings up avoid making the card giver too narrow. And this is really subtle, and I hadn't noticed it until they brought this up. But if you write just dad or a dad, instead of my dad, it broadens the audience. So let's say the card said, my dad is da da da, my dad is da da da. I can only send that to my father figure if I'm a card buyer. But if I say a dad is da da da, a dad is da da da, then I could send it to, say, my brother or my friend who just became a father. And this is just good advice with any type of writing, to study existing things out there already in the genre. And the nice thing is we can do this one for dirt cheap. A lot of times when we want to study poetry, we may have to go buy a book. And yes, we should support our poets. I'm not saying we shouldn't. But if I want to study greeting cards, I walk to Meyer and I stand there in the aisle and I just read. So study those existing card layouts and styles and think, how do the words work with the imagery to set that tone, that emotion, and that impact? And again, this is just a good writing tip. Learn about the publishers. You don't send the raunchy card to the religious publisher and just follow all of the writer's guidelines so you have your best shot. And be prepared for a competitive market. If you do sell to a company, companies do buy more freelance artwork than they do freelance writing. Speaking of artwork, almost all greeting cards include artwork. Not all. I have seen some beautifully simple greeting cards where it was just text and a nice simple font, but the vast majority do include some type of artwork. Often the biggest image is on the front. Often the interior contains words only, but it can include artwork that corresponds to the artwork on the front. It can be on just the right side of the interior or on both sides. And fold out and pop-up cards are also widely sold, particularly millennials like those kind of niche fancy dancy cards. So cards that do weird things are fun. If you do create your own cards to sell online, do be careful to either make your own artwork or to respect all copyright claims. And your artwork and your verse should work hand in hand to convey a unified message or tone. Now, I am not an artist, so I will keep my art notes brief. Maybe one day Alice can help figure this out, the artwork end. But I did find this part useful, particularly if you're ever planning on creating cards that you might sell on Etsy or another site. And that is the color scheme. Because even if you're using someone else's art with proper licensing, you can help select the right tone. So here were some suggestions for birthday, anniversary, thank you. Neons create a good party atmosphere. Mid-century earth tones with some pastel pinks and blues make it feel retro, give it a cozy 1950s feel. And each holiday has associated colors. So, for example, which holiday is being referenced there at the top? Yes. Yes, it is Christmas. Yes. And so that is a safe bet to go with the associated colors, but you don't have to. You can do, yeah, the blue sometimes gets thrown in for kind of like a snow feeling, a cold feeling, but the blue can throw people. Jewel tones can make it seem like a festive occasion, and metallics, they look magical, they look glittery, but they are more expensive to print. Yes, and George is bringing up that, yeah, you could use it for Earth Day, 4th of July. Sympathy and get well. Pastels are winners here. They're gentle, they're calming, they work well with floral imagery. And warm colors like pink, orange, yellow, they're warm, they're comforting. So those work well with sympathy and get well. All right, a little bit about fonts. Make sure that your font matches the tone that you want to convey, and make sure it's easy to read. If you are doing something that's meant to be personal and friendly, then doing a hand-drawn font such as these three here, Coroni, Frente H1, and Caveat are winners. And by the way, I am sending to you over Zoom when this is all over, I am sending you a handout that has all these websites I'm mentioning, all the links, all the names of the fonts. So if this is going too fast for you to write down your notes, it's okay. You will get it in the handout. I also chose these specific three, not just because they were recommended by one of the sites, but because they're free. You can download these for free from a site called fontsquirrel.com, and it has plenty more for you to play with. So if you want to be stylish and contemporary, then sans serif fonts are ones that are recommended. And sans serif means that sometimes fonts will have like little extra lines at the nubs, the ends of each letter, and sans serif doesn't. And so things like Jost, Gilroy, and Clerica are ones that are recommended for birthday thank you holiday cards. And calligraphy and script. Those can work beautifully for things that are formal, special occasions, engagement, romantic cards, but use these with caution because a lot of times when you shrink the font size down, they're super hard to read. So these again are on here because they're free from Font Squirrel, but because they look okay when you shrink them down some. Okay, so I went into the wild and I found some poetry cards. The majority of cards that I found were not ones that had rhymes. You could call them poetry in a way, maybe free verse, a lot of jokey poems. You all have been shopping for cards, so you know what it's like, but I invite you to, next time that you're in a store with a card aisle, go through it with some writer's eyes and not just with a card giver's eyes, because you do look at it differently. And so here in the wild, I found some cards. And so you don't even have to worry so much about what the actual words are, but as you look at the style, the colors, the image, what are some things that you are observing about this card? And you can mark that in the chat or unmute yourself and talk about it. What are some observations? Paper airplanes, yes. The artwork continues on each page, yes. And you don't see that all the time. Sometimes the interior is only one side. This one continues all. Nature, yes, color. The motion, thank you for pointing that out, George, the motion of it. It does have a rhyme scheme. A lot of them don't, but this one does. And now the colors. We mentioned some of those jewel tones. This is a jewel tone card. It is emerald, and it does have metallic highlights to make it extra fancy. And something I didn't talk about yet, but you will see a lot of, that little piece of twine there, that has no logical function. That is there for decoration to make it look more handcrafted. But millennials love this kind of stuff. Not all millennials, I don't want to speak for us as a monolith, but that kind of maker feel, you even see in some of these big companies who release cards. Okay, what about this one? What are some observations that you have about this card? The tone is fun. It's a busy cover. It's an open interior. Yeah. So John, if you were a buyer and you had a personal note that you wanted, you might look for a card like this because it has plenty of space. Good, I'm a birder. Yeah, and this one, new home, fun bird humor. Yep. Very short, but it is a rhyming poem. Excellent. And the earth tones here, we mentioned that you would see earth tones in some of those birthday cards or other occasion cards. All right, so this one, so glad we're sisters. George, you're cracking me up today. Someone once sent me a card that when opened made the sound of a fart. Yes. Yeah, those with the little chips. I remember when those were new, I loved those things. Sometimes they play songs, sometimes they play farts, apparently. Those are still out there. There's definitely still a market for those. I can't give you any recommendations on how to create those, but they do exist. Yes, so what you're observing about this one is birthday, fun, childhood, absolutely. So again, just kind of pointing out here, you know, the bright colors, the font here is kind of handwritten and fun. It's very casual, metallic outsides here. And is this a rhyming poem? Some font play for emphasis, yes. This is an approximately rhyming poem. They are out there. Again, it's not the majority, but they do exist. They were not that hard to find. Now, what I observed just as a casual observer is that for longer poems that are more the traditional rhyming form, that would be things that are addressed more to like mothers, sympathy, like close female connections, but not exclusively female. I don't mean to be sexist here. I just happen to notice it more on those types of cards. And so this, I know the font is super hard to read this small, but just, I want to just draw your attention here to the floral imagery. They went here in this instance with the traditional colors that one might associate with Mother's Day. You don't have to be traditional, but this is one example of something that is quite typical. A longer poem conveys weightiness. Yes, great observation, Chuck. And this is definitely more than the 30-word limit that I gave earlier. So there's definitely a market for the longer ones. It's just a smaller market. And I had to go back to Maya Angelou. Now, these are ones that came out with her Life Mosaic series. I do want to say that that's a 20-year-old series. So I don't know that this is the current market trend, but if I were to see a card like this, I might buy it today. So let's study one of the masters here, of the poets who made it big in the greeting card industry. We laugh at the same human foibles. We cry at the same human frailties. You care for the things I care for. Friendship like this adds years to life. And so is that poetry? Definitely. It is extremely short poetry. I am impressed with it. Still has power, even though it is so short. Now we see her name on this. If you sell your card to a company, your name will probably be removed. Hers is on there because her name was part of the brand. If you create your own card, you can leave your name on there, but just do be aware that your name may be taken off should you sell to a company. I also enjoyed this poem over here. Observation really quick. Verse form is really important in hers. Yes. Love the depth in the photo and the depth in the words. Yes. Font also plays into the format. Yes. And as we look at some of her others, she has some of that font play with certain words that are italicized, for example, or offset. Oh, a little too far. Pull this over so I can see. Next side, you have so much experience to offer, so do I. I have so much understanding to give, so do you. Only equals make friends. Oh, noticing the serif font. Yes, absolutely. Good observation, Chuck. And so here are a few more of hers. We are living art, created to hang on, stand up, forbear, continue, and encourage others. Everything in the universe has rhythm, everything dances, and we have a sisterness about us. Sometimes the best cards you get are sent out of the blue with no specific holiday, just a greeting. Yes, and that was in some of the studies I read, George, that was something a lot of people brought up, was just that lovely feeling of going to your box and you're not expecting it, but someone took that extra effort to send that sort of a special message to you in connection. So looking at these here from Life Mosaic, we do see that some have a clear image, like the feet there, that's a photograph, but others, it's more kind of background art. It's more a pattern. And I see plenty on Etsy and different sites where you create your own as a maker and sell them that are more pattern based. And so that is something to consider if you don't create your own art well, to maybe go with a pattern if you can find a great pattern that matches that. All right, on to where to submit. Because if you're looking to get your words out there, maybe not to become rich with this, but just to get your words out there and to maybe help somebody put a voice to their feelings, let's think about where you can submit. So there are 5 methods I found for creating and selling cards online. And this was from an article from toughnickel.com. First, you can create and upload your card designs to print-on-demand sites like Zazzle, and Zazzle will be in your handout, so you can go check it out later. And print on demand, I think some of you are familiar with that term. It basically means you don't have to print 500 cards and sell them on your own. It is on the website. The buyer clicks on it. It is printed at that time by the company and sent directly to them. Another option would be to sell handcrafted cards, so ones you're making at home, on Etsy or similar marketplaces. And Etsy is a site that has lots of different, craft type projects. It's really good for individual artists and makers. Alice observes, sisterness, you can make up poetic words in your greeting cards. You absolutely can. Another option is to build your own website to sell your cards. And I know, for example, Alice has an art site where she sells some of her art. It's not that hard or expensive. They do make these websites that will kind of walk you through the process. Sometimes there is an associated cost to setting that up, but it is relatively affordable. Another option, you can fulfill custom greeting card requests on freelance sites. You can be like Marlene and have a personal connection with a business. And the last option is to sell to existing greeting card companies. So here were ones that I found handmade cards on Etsy. And yes, I know that is not written in English. I cannot translate it for you, but it is poetry. But I wanted you to kind of see the type of imagery that's on there and to also see how they set it up so it would sell. It has that nice crinkly paper in the background. They're selling this one as a boxed set. And they set a little bit of, dried natureness over there on the edge that I'm sure is not being, sent along in the mailing. But it just helps the display. Those are just little extra touches that may help catch the eye and make the product look good. And then over here on the right side, this is found text. It's a blackout poem. And I don't know if this is one where it can be copied several times and several people can own the same image. It may be that this is the one real piece of paper and the person who buys this image is the only person in the world who owns it. And that sort of extreme handcrafted, where this is something where it is unique to the world, is something that is more and more enviable in the card market. Great. Yes, Alice is going on to explain fineartamerica.com and some different things that go along with that. $36 a year is not bad. Unlimited uploads. Your work can be all kinds of products, including framed prints, mugs, t-shirts, blankets, tablecloths, napkins, shower curtains, tote bags, etc. Excellent. Thank you, Alice. All right. Expense for this. The maker ones, the ones that are on Etsy and other of those maker sites, individual artist sites, do tend to be a little higher. The prices for these, the set over there was about $12.50. And then the found text blackout poem was about $4.37, and that was before the shipping costs. But millennials will pay a little extra for the uniqueness. Okay, and
Sarah,
yes.
can I just say real quick, when I said the $36 a year, that's for the artist account. That's not what people pay to buy something, just clarifying.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. Thank you for the clarification. So on to some of the greeting card companies. And this one here, this is the one I go gaga at. This is one I'm trying to break into. So far haven't, but Blue Mountain Arts. And you may recognize at least the style of this. This is an established greeting card publisher. They work with freelancers. They pay well. I mean, they will pay $300 for things that they publish. They also do a poetry contest. And they are known for contemporary prose or poetry written from personal experience that reflects the thoughts and feelings people today want to communicate to another but don't know how to put into words. They do longer forms. And a lot of them are ones that really hit on relationships. My mom gave me a book, which was in the same style as the cards, just a little bit longer. And I got that when I was like 12 and I still have it. And it's just beautiful poetry and it's in the same style. So I highly recommend them. And again, these will all be on your handout. Oatmeal Studios. They are looking for humorous greeting card ideas that appeal to a range of ages and interests. So there's just an example of one of the things that I found on their site. Rejected card ideas include puns, gross or mean ideas, lengthy poetry or prose, or ideas that are too narrowly focused, like congratulations on your quintuplets. Although poetry is accepted, because I went on their sites, I did not find any of rhyming poetry online, but I did find things you might call very short free verse. And they do accept submissions over email and snail mail. Beautiful. Chuck brings up the point that Susan Polis, is it Schutz? I will say Schutz until someone corrects me.
There's no L. I'm pretty sure there's no L. I may have that wrong, but there was always something odd about her name, and I think it was the fact that I always, you see SHUTZ, and you just automatically want to read Schultz, or at least I did. So that's why I think it's either Schutz or Schultz, but I'll look it up.
Sure. Thank you for bringing it up. I had forgotten the name, but yes, that is the one that I had the book I mentioned from. And am I seeing from Alice that you placed in one of their contests? You got real money. That's great.
I did. It was a few years ago. I can't remember when, but it was the biggest thrill because it was like the first time in, a very long time that I actually earned money from a poem. It was crazy.
That's great. This is evidence that you can get your words out there and make a little money doing greeting cards. That's
I had
great.
the spelling correct. I just checked.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck, for clarifying that. That's great. Next place you can submit, Warner Christian Resources. This is out of Anderson, Indiana. They produce boxed greeting cards that, quote, inspire, encourage, and uplift. Warner Press is a publishing house of the Church of God, and their cards reflect their faith outlook. They're looking for cards that provide Christian inspiration in a casual tone, and they pay $35 upon acceptance. And I will include the link to their writer's guidelines. Another company is RSVP. They are an eclectic line of greetings that is fresh, funny, sweet, and sugary. That's how they describe themselves, mixed with a bit of sass and edge. The types of verses they are most interested in are ones written in a contemporary style with wording that is not too formal or overused. They prefer messages sound authentic and original, sincere but not overly sentimental. The verses do not necessarily have to be long. They don't tend to use rhymed poetry or religious verse unless they ask for it. And they do, a lot of places tell you only submit maybe 3 or 5 submissions. This company says, send all of them, just send everything. And so you can get it all done at once if you wish. So I will include a link there. Here's an example of one of theirs. And so I'm not going to read this one out loud, but you can just kind of see the format here. I do also want to mention that they also publish small poetry books. So I know we're talking about greeting cards, but hey, another place to send your poetry. And Belly Button Fuzz, that's a great title. Via Bella, they've been in the greeting card and stationery business since 1941. You can see they're a little fancier. They also do box sets of cards. They sell online and in brick and mortar stores, including Office Depot. The pay is pretty good. It's $50 to $100 per verse, and it does pay more for humorous submissions. It does say currently on their website they're not seeking religious or secular submissions. Next one is Calypso. They have several card lines under the name Calypso. What they currently are looking for freelance work is for a line called Selfish Kitty. It's a humor line that's edgy but not cruel or degrading. The audience is young, urban, and educated, and then they take care of the artwork after they select the verse. So I enjoyed this card right here. I will let you stop and read and appreciate this. All right, moving along. Noble Works. Now this one I give to you with a buyer beware because they describe themselves as risque and funny. They are raunchy. But if that's your style, I did not want to exclude it. You go check it out under your own volition. They are raunchy. And it does seem like this could be a market that someone might really enjoy. They did not have their writer's guidelines posted. They did have a form you fill out and then they mail you their writer's guidelines. This is the cleanest card I could find on their site. It's not specifically poetry, but I did want to show at least a little bit of what they had. And that's just 7 sites. The Greeting Card Association, and it's at greetingcard.org. They have a member directory, and I'm including this on your handout. And if you want to look up the members on there so you can find additional places to send to, just learn more about the industry, that's a great resource. Okay, moving on to a brief word about copyright. Do make sure that you are not using copyrighted material in any of your wording or your artwork. If you sell to a company, you will normally be required to sign a statement saying, my idea is original, I'm not going to use it again anywhere else. There's a few exceptions. One of these companies, I can't remember which one, but it is on their website, says, sure, use your poem for whatever you want as long as it's not in a competitive market with our products. But most of the time you are selling the use of your poem outright. And then the company then owns the rights to use your design or your idea from then on. Usually when you sell to a company, you're paid a flat fee for your work instead of a royalty. And expected pay really varies. It could be $15, it could be $150, it could be $300. Generally expect something on the low end. If you do sell your own cards, like you design them, you market them, it's on a website that you've uploaded, you retain the copyright. And that can be a nice perk, even though it's extra work for you. Thus far, we've spoken about greeting cards as a market, assuming that your intentions are to get your words out into the public. But you know, that's not always the case, as we've mentioned in the comments. Often the cards that mean the most to us, it's when we see those personal handwritten words just to us. And so I want to just take a moment and think about those private greeting cards. You know, maybe you've created one of those for a loved one. Maybe you've received one of those. You know, what makes these memorable? How can we make these even better? And so some suggestions for these, length and format matters far, far less. If you want to make it into a little booklet almost inside because your poem's so long, that's fine. The greeting card police are not going to pull you over. You can also add lots more detail and use real names. Suggestions to make it feel more personal are to write about a memory you share, tell a story about the person, include quotes or references that are meaningful to them. Like if they love Star Wars, put it full of Star Wars references in your card. Use inside jokes and just compliment. And now I want to spend about, let's say 10 minutes and let's have some creation time. And so if you can find somewhere, maybe a piece of paper and fold it in half, take a pen or a pencil, and your assignment in the next 10 minutes is to draft a card. This need not be highly polished, but maybe think through what's the occasion you're writing for? Who's your audience? And then the actual verse, the actual short lines. And you can distinguish, you know, what's on the front, what's going to go on the inside of the card. If you get all done with that assignment, and remember 30 words is good for most cards, you can go longer. But if you get all done with that part, then you can jot down some ideas like what colors would you want? What images might you use? What kinds of fonts might you use? Would your card be really big? Oh, and I do want to mention too, if you create cards for sale or create cards to send through the mail, make sure that it can fit in an envelope and go through the post office mail, or you'll have to hand deliver it. But let's take a moment. I'm going to come off of share and I'm going to put on a little music if I can. And why don't we take 10 minutes and do a little writing? About 2 more minutes. great. I hope you had a chance to at least get started on your idea. Don't worry if it's very rough, that is just fine, but I would love to see some of your ideas. I don't mind being brave and going first, but I think, oh, Alice wants to. Go Alice, go Alice. Do you want to go ahead and share?
I want to share because I love your presentation so much. And so this is my outside of my greeting card. I don't know if you guys, oh, this is not going to work very well. It's, I realize I'm going in and out of, I can't see it. Well, anyway, I just drew a really goofy picture of, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just like trees and what's supposed to be a moon. And then my poem on the front, this is kind of in the thinking of you genre, okay? Under the moon's glow, fullness envelops my heart, the branches clasp hands. And you probably can't see, but two of the branches, one from each tree, are crossing each other as though they're touching. And then on the inside, I just put, see you again soon, love Alice, because it was like, you know, just in that genre. So yay, Sarah E.
Yay, you.
Now
I
show
love
it,
that
show us
idea.
yours. Yeah.
That is a beautiful idea to have the trees, and I love how your message and your image match. Yeah, they support each other really well.
Thank you.
So I kind of had like a friendship one. So the front, you have the courage to you every day, you as a verb, to be your quirky, unforgettable self, no matter what others say. When some folks say you're weird, and then the inside, remember you're a limited edition. And so my idea for an image, and I can't draw it, but have any of you seen Inside Out? And there's that imaginary character who's like part elephant, part dolphin, part, you know, cotton candy. It's just an amalgamation of creatures. I would want some really weird looking amalgamation of creatures with some purples and yellows, something very, very odd looking. And then probably a playful font that's, you know, half cursive and half print. Okay, who'd like to be next?
Okay. So mine is a sympathy card, and I'm not a good artist, so I have not drawn anything, but there will be a bright lit star in a light blue sky shining brightly. And the card, it would say as follows: Your dear mother, she fought life's wars so her children could pursue their dreams, remembering the magical moments she left behind.
That's beautiful. That's moving. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. That was great. All right. Who wants to go next? I think Rachel's going to join us.
Here we go. Okay. I'm getting ready to visit a granddaughter at Myrtle Beach. So this is just a little, it's just a little seaside. I don't know. It's just it's probably, you can't see it. Just a little simple seaside sketch. And then it continues inside with shells or more of the beach. It's not very good. Anyway, I put in the caption, we laughed on that cold day at the beach. We chased the birds and snuggled into the beach towels, ate bologna sandwiches, munched potato chips, and I will soon be by your side again. Happy birthday.
Oh, I love that. No, your images came across well. That's
Good.
great.
Okay.
I like the layout you did as kind of a border there on the second interior. Great. Who would like to be next?
Here, I can you see me? Sarah, do you see me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. This is my kind of third grade-ish kind of card. There's a little like path or road with a tree here and some mountains in the background, and it says, Happy Earth Day. And then on the inside, it says, may your feet always walk trails of peace and beauty, and a little flower right in the bottom. So it's kind of third gradish, but that's all right.
I think that's perfect. And I had not thought to even mention Earth Day cards as a genre, but that is a thing. So that's perfect. Thank you, Joe.
I loved how short it was too, because that was one of the things that was hardest for me, was how to get it so short, because I have long ones. So I didn't even have the time to like draw. But is there like an order? Can I go next?
Sure, absolutely. Please do.
All right. So I have shining brighter than a star, wishing to see the day. And that's it. Because stars are normally seen at night, but the one that we forget most about is the sun. And so it shines the brightest.
I love that. Is pithy. I love that. Do you
Thanks,
have
guys.
ideas for like an image that might go with that? Not that I expect you to draw it, but just can you describe what image might go with that?
Right. I feel like I would do more of like a sun kind of feeling, and then maybe even do like a picture of someone in the middle or something.
You have an occasion that you would hope people would apply that to, send it for?
Yeah, I see this more as like a graduation, kind of like moving forward. You know, you've been in the dark for so long, and then you're now going off into being yourself and being more out in the real world per se. And so now it's like, boom, graduation. Maybe I should, I could put that on the front, congratulations, or make your day shine, or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. And it is Paige on the other end, right? You're just showing
Yes.
the iPhone. Okay, I thought so.
Oh, darn. I thought I changed my name. I'm sorry.
That's okay. People are saying, good job, iPhone. So that's great.
It's always
Excellent.
me.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
Who else would like to share?
I did a lighthearted birthday, and I don't have a visual concept for this, but hey, another birthday has rolled around. Another birthday. Do you hear that sound? People are singing just for you. Sing along and be happy too.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That reminds me of ones that I've seen in the store that people would pick up and buy. Absolutely. Great. Anyone else want to go?
I've got to offer a niche market card. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
So imagine the front cover being like the horror movie The Grudge. Okay? Here's the verse. So glad to hear you're going through hell. I paid a witch big bucks to cast the perfect spell.
You know what the beauty though is that with the internet, you can find a niche market.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's great.
Yeah, somebody would say, that's exactly what I wanted to say.
Exactly.
Mhm. Great. Who else would like to share? I think Marlene, I think you're saying something, but I think you're still on mute.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I found another card about one of his cards, and let me see how I turn this out here. Early morning light shines on mountains of silence. Mountains strong and tall. I don't have it. I don't have it yet. It's a haiku.
That's a beautiful image.
I'm not much of an artist.
What I've always loved about your poetry, Marlene, is you're very good at taking an image and just describing it so poetically. They're so vivid.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I did that one. Well, I'll keep trying. Never give up.
Great. Mary, did you have one you wanted to share? No? Okay, that's fine. Deborah, did you want to share?
Well, of course, it's to my daughters. So it was inspired by the artwork that you showed us a moment ago, where the hands are holding. There's the hand holding, so that kind of lingered in there because I am not an artist. But the front would be something like that, with the hand holding, or maybe two people hugging, and it's to you, beautiful daughter. And in the inside, you are my raison d'etre. You are my source of joy. I hold you ever so tightly. I love you forevermore. Just
Thank
as
you.
a Tuesday card, just because it's Tuesday.
That's great.
That'd be a wonderful keepsake. John, did you have one you wanted to share? Sorry, John Cavanis, did you have one you wanted to share? We just already heard from John Hinton.
Yeah, I've got one. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll let you decide what genre this goes in. Support without end. Always a smile when we meet. Your love helps me ascend. And I don't have any art because that's not my brain.
That's a good friendship card. That's a good, just thinking of you kind of thing.
That's great. Okay. I feel like I missed somebody. Did we get everyone?
Spike?
He didn't have a contribution right now. Okay. Anyone else need to step forward? I think we got everyone who wanted to say something. Okay. Hey, those were great. I'm inspired by what you created. I am going to wrap this up with one final view, if I can get it to share. This will be just one moment. There we go. Okay. And this, the final directive that I leave you with, is to send. And your challenge is to finish your verse. You can sell it to a card company. You can upload it and sell it. You can simply sell it or send it to someone you care about, just a one-to-one unique kind of message. But that is your mission at this point, because, in the end, that is what this unique and often overlooked form of poetry is all about. It's connecting one human being to another through a piece of paper, and that's pretty cool. And as a gift, this is actually greeting card month. And so I give to you, through the power of Hallmark, some free greeting cards. If you go to hallmark.com, you can sign up for 3 free greeting cards to be sent to your address. So hallmark.com. And see, I even brought prizes through Zoom just for you. So thank you for listening today. And I really enjoyed seeing everybody's contributions.
What's the name for the Zoom equivalent of a door prize?
Whoa. That's a great question.
A screen prize?
A screen prize.
A click prize?
Sarah E., that was
Sarah,
so
that was
wonderful.
absolutely wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so we've all got new ways to grow, right?